Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last talk of the day. That we have 4 persons, and I might have some difficulty to say the name. I'm sorry in advance. We have Enrico Zini, Colin Watson, Pina, Estany, and Stefano Rivera, who are going to talk to us about Debusine as part of their friction work, I think. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you, Safit. So, there are 4 of us here, but I think I'll do most of the presentation, and when there's questions, or if I get something horribly wrong, people can dive in. We're going to try a live demo of using Debusine to automate some QA, what could possibly go wrong. And so, what is Debusine? Help if I have the mouse in the right monitor. Over here, there we go. We'll quickly introduce the project, we'll do a demo, and then, I keep putting my mouse in the wrong place. We are building Debusine as some potential future infrastructure for Debian. We have some needs of our own as a Debian derivative. So Frixion runs Debian ELTS and hosts some other Debian things like a PHP archive. So for these, we need to build packages, we need to run all the QA tasks, and now we need to do secure boot signing now that Buster's made it into ELTS. So we've got all the same problems that Debian has, but we don't really want to run Debian's messy infrastructure, all of it, and we can probably do a bit better. We currently have app repositories. Debusine doesn't do that yet, but it is doing most of the tasks above that already. We also see a future as other companies that run Debian probably have the same problem. Well, other companies that run Debian and do their own stuff on top of Debian have the same problems and would find it useful to have some software that can automate all of the Debian archive and package handling stuff. We're all Debian developers. Everyone who works for Frixion is a Debian developer. The set of people working on Debusine are all Frixion collaborators who are being paid to work on Debusine. This work is being funded by STF this year in a grant. Talk about that a bit more later. The project is currently under fairly heavy development. It's got basically 3 full-time engineers working on it, and the team's twice that size. We've got the core foundations of the project in place. I'll go through what those are in a bit, but we've been building from the ground up to try and get the right abstractions to build a Debian package, a software development archive and package building infrastructure and everything that you need for that. It's mostly usable in the state it is right now. We have a public instance, debusine.debian.net. If you're a Debian developer, you can log in on it and submit jobs. It has 5 AMD64 workers and 8 ARM workers. They can all do the 32-bit things too. I used it to rebuild a large chunk of the archive for the Python 3.13 transition and a few other things I was testing out in Python package tooling, and it kind of did the job. I had to build some things around Debusine because Debusine doesn't have all of this built in yet, but we will get there. Niels has just yesterday started rebuilding half of the archive to test, or the whole archive probably, to test rebuilding rules requires root by default. And we're using it in production in Frixion for secure boot signing for ELTS and hopefully a lot more package building soon. So now let's go and do a live example. Not that. So, the first step would be to log in, set up accounts, all of that. I'm going to skip over that. If you were going to do this stuff, you'd read our docs and they tell you what to do. Going to apt-get source to distro info, and you'll see it's right here. I can import it into Debusine. And I've got a new artifact ID. So now if I edit my, I've got a little YAML file here that describes the job I want to run. I can put that artifact ID in. And I'll explain what all of this does in a bit. Let's put that up at the top. And let's create a workflow. In my case, I need to a job has been triggered. So if we go and look at debusine.debian.net on the work requests tab, there's a whole lot of things currently running here. That's the job I just submitted. The first thing's already run. There's a whole bunch of other things that are running or are waiting to run. We'll come back to those in a minute. You might recognize this YAML here. That's very similar to what I uploaded, but with a few more defaults stuffed in. So, what does all of this actually mean? There's a few sort of concepts we need to get through. While we're waiting for the demo to complete, we will look at the building blocks of the thing that I'm doing. So, first thing to talk about is artifacts. That source package that I uploaded to Debusine is a Debian source package artifact. And all of the artifacts are strongly typed objects with JSON metadata. If we go and have a look at one of these, this one, for example, we can see the input here was a source package. And you'll recognize all of these fields, the same thing you would see in a DSC file, but they're available in the metadata of the artifact, so the Debusine can query them and see what it is. And it's got some files in it. It's got the DSC and the tar. If it was a 3.0 quilt package, a non-native package, it would also have an orig tar there. There's several different kinds of artifacts. You'll see the binary packages, uploads, build logs, a few other things. All of the files within the artifacts are stored by hash, so if you duplicate something 1,000 times, it's not going to consume any more disk space, just some database space. Eventually, artifacts will move out of disk storage and move to cloud blob stores, probably, or for scalability. Yeah, we should be working on that soon. Now, the thing that you want to do something with your artifacts. All of the tasks that where you run some code on something are run inside a work request. In this case, we're running a pile of sbuild tasks to build this package on multiple architectures. If we go and have a look back here, why are you not going back? So there was several build tasks. Oh, they're all done already. So here's an example build task. It's building the source package I uploaded. It's running on a SID build environment. And it is, in this case, it is building the any component, so the AMD64 specific bits. One of the builds will be building the all component as well. And then, yeah, these are the input artifacts. Down here are the output artifacts. One of them is a binary package deb. And one of them is a build log. Yeah, you can see it's doing all of the things you would expect it to do, building a package. So all of the builds are handled on a fleet of external workers that have no privileged access to the database. They just have access to the artifacts and the task metadata. They get told, here's a thing, go and run this task on it. And then those builds can be sandboxed, so we can in the future have multiple untrusted users building packages on the same machines without security concerns if we sandbox them enough. We've got a few different levels of sandboxing, and at the moment you can choose when you run a task which one you want to use. You can build with Unshare, like the Debian archive is now doing, or Incus LXC containers, or Incus VMs, or QEMU. The environment that you're building it in, so the source pack, the chroot tarball that the build is happening in, is also coming from an artifact, and those artifacts are being built by work requests that run dbootstrap and create a tarball and upload it to Debusine. These artifacts can go into collections. Collections, also strongly typed things with well-defined semantics, and each collection holds a collection of similar things. So you can imagine a Debian suite collection is a collection of all of the binary and source packages inside a Debian suite. A Debian environments collection is all of the tarballs and system images that you use to run work requests in. A Debian archive will hold a collection of Debian suites and have other archive configuration when we get there. Collections can also hold just bare JSON objects, and you can use that for configuration. For example, we're planning to replace packages arg-specific and that kind of buildy configuration with a collection of JSON objects describing what should be built, what rules should be applied when building. And you can have a promise for an artifact that's coming later in a workflow. I kind of brushed over it earlier, but there was we found the environments that we were building the work request from. Let's go back to that. We had this thing that said environment as Debian match codename SID. That's a lookup saying, find me the latest build environment source tarball for building SID packages inside the Debian environments collection. So we have a sort of a compact string way of writing a lookup, or a more complex dictionary one if you've got more complicated constraints. And you can use these in a lot of places in automation to avoid actually needing to know which artifact ID you're working with, just a way of describing it and finding it. If you do know the ID, you can use that as well, of course. Now, running workflows on their own can let you build a package, but you want to do much higher level things than that. You want your package on all the architectures and run auto-package tests on all the architectures, etc. So we have workflows that combine a tree of related work requests into a single thing you can trigger. Currently, these are implemented as Python code on the server. We thought about how to do it with a DSL, and it all gets very hard and complicated. It's probably going to have to remain Python code for the foreseeable future. But we have workflow templates where the admin of a Debusine workspace can specify what workflows they would like to allow their users to execute and some default parameters for it to run. For example, in that demo I just did, we executed the Debian QA unshare workflow, and that told Debusine that we want to run the Debian pipeline workflow, and we want to use the unshare build backend with it. Workflows, they have an internal collection for the artifacts produced within the workflow, so different tasks in the workflow can look into the collection and see what was produced by previous steps and take them and do the next steps with it. You can see that in the example here. We built source packages, and then we ran auto-package tests on them. The auto-package test view is less pretty, but it passed. And we ran lintian on them, and we ran pewparts on them. All of these are sort of looking back into the workflow and saying, I'm expecting AMD 64 binaries, what have you got? Okay, let's do something with those. So, how do you use Debusine to automate your QA in Debian? You've seen the demo. If you want to go and do any of this, have a look at our documentation, and these are probably the kind of things you'll be looking at. You can log into debusine.debian.net if you're a Debian developer. You'll find the client configuration in our documentation. We have you can execute our low-level work requests directly. For example, build a package or run auto-package test or whatever. For now. We might put this behind the workflows soon. And I'm already using this if I need to do a package build that's going to take 6 hours. I'd rather not do it on my laptop. There's a nice fleet of worker machines waiting to do something. I give it to them. You can use our higher level workflows like the Debian pipeline I just showed you, and I'll get back to in a moment. And if you want to do something bigger, like doing a complete archive rebuild, I've been working on some tools to do that using Debusine. It is very unofficial in that it's not the aim of the Debusine project to use API tools, API tools like that. We want to build support for this into Debusine. But right now, Debusine doesn't have the high-level orchestration to run an archive rebuild yet, so if you want to do it, you need to use some wrapper scripts, and I've got them, and I'll happily help you to use them to get things done. Before I go into that, let's finish with this pipeline. What was the goal of this pipeline that I was demoing here? It took a source package, it ran all the QA tests on it, everything passed, so it should now be good to upload to the archive. This is now waiting for me to sign the source package of the thing I uploaded, and it can then upload it to Debian for me. If I go and... No. If I click on here, it'll tell me it wants me to run that. I can do that. Whoop. One extra Debusine. Because I grabbed a DSC file from the Debian archive, it is of course already signed. But the changes file is freshly signed and now uploaded and will appear in... you can't see it here. It'll appear in the deferred queue because I uploaded it with a delay of 1 day. The reason you would do something like this is if you think your package is ready to go, but you would like to know that it's going to pass all its QA before you upload it, you can trigger a pipeline, like you can give Debusine your package and say, run all the tests, and if everything passes, upload. And right now there's a bug, so it doesn't actually wait for everything to pass. It uploads as soon as you sign the source, but we'll fix that. And when everything is passed, it can take your signed DSC and upload it, and it's just like you uploaded it yourself, except you are... it uploaded it on your behalf.
Dput++.
Yeah, Dput++, exactly. So, where have we got to in the last year? We gave a talk about Debusine last year at MiniDebConf Cambridge, and so we're about due for an update. This year we've been working on features that have been funded by STF in a series of milestones, which have been approximately 3 months each, but they have grown and shrunk significantly. I'm going to whip through these quite quickly. The first milestone we had M1 was about QA tasks. We built out the basic work request tasks, sbuild, auto-package test, linty and puparts, and blhc log analyzer. We already had sbuild from before M1, but it only worked with schroot. We had to rework it to be able to use many different kinds of sandboxing backends. For each of these things that involve the Debian team, like auto-package test, linty, and puparts, we spoke to the teams in Debian and asked them what features they thought were important to them. How should we do things? How can we make Debusine be useful to them in the future? We set up the public debusine.debian.net instance, which required writing an SSO implementation. And we started writing some basic web views for tasks. You can see some of them are still a bit messy. The web interface is all very alpha and full of bite-sized bugs that we would welcome your help to fix. I mentioned the executor interface. M2 looks a lot shorter because there's only 2 big projects in it, but these are significant building blocks each, and it took a lot of work. Creating the infrastructure to run workflows that populated with work requests to solve a bigger problem, and collections of artifacts, or collections of collections. M1 and M2 dragged on a bit, and we started M3 quite late, so at this point we started pushing the speed a bit and trying to reduce scope where we could. The goal of M3 was to replace rebuild D for Freaksian's use case and make Debusine usable as a build D in production. So we spoke to Debian's build D team about the requirements they have for build D orchestration. We built the sbuild workflow, which just builds all of the sbuild tasks on every architecture. Packages can fail to build because their build dependencies aren't available yet, and BD uninstallability proved to be quite a difficult problem to solve. We haven't really solved it yet. We're going to have to come back to it. At the moment, we just retry builds on an automated schedule. We have a way to give back failed builds. You can just click a retry button on the work request. We have a collection for all the build logs, so you can search them and they get kept forever. And we have status overview pages of what workers are available, what the queues are like. The 4th milestone is mostly about the needs of the security team. The big thing here is that the security team needs to be able to work on embargoed issues, and so they have to work in a private namespace. And as soon as the issue is made public, the packages need to be published, the build logs need to be published, everything needs to go into public space. So again, this involved talking to the security team. The way we implemented the embargoes is with a private workspace that the private work can happen in, and when it's ready to go public, it can be copied out of the public workspace into out of the private workspace into public workspace. We needed to implement secure boot signing, and we chose to do that with HSMs as well as keys stored in a database. But for Freaksian's ELTS kernel and shim signing, we really wanted to keep the keys safely in HSMs. We have manual review steps, so workflows can wait for a human to come and say, yes, that looks good, you can move on to the next step. And like that step I had to do of signing a package, it's a similar kind of wait step. We have a dev task and a reverse auto-package test workflow that schedules work requests to run auto-package tests for all the packages that depend on your package that you just changed.
That one's not there yet, but
yes,
coming in this month soon.
And that's where we are right now. We're busy finishing M4. We're about to start M5, and we've pitched to STF for a series of milestones for 2025. M5 is mostly about expanding this, getting some cloud workers so that we can run even more builds. And at the moment, all of our builds workers are the same, or at least from Debusine's point of view, they're the same. It can't point a particularly big job at a big worker or anything like that. So we need to start recording some statistics of how long each build takes, how much disk space, how much RAM it needs, and then we can push builds in the right direction. We would like to be able to auto-spawn workers on a cloud when the server gets busy. And we'd like to move artifact storage off disk and into a cloud blob store. We need a way for workspace admins, not just system administrators, to create workflow templates. At the moment, you need to be quite privileged to do it because you can do... Our privileges are only just starting to be implemented around private namespaces. And we're going to need some web interfaces to monitor experiment results. For 2025, we're pitching two separate kinds of things. This year, all of the milestones that we pitched to STF were feature-based, and we didn't really leave any space for maintenance or community work, responding to people who want to contribute to Debusine, and solving the things that make it difficult to work with and not really polished enough to use yet. So we're requesting a few milestones specifically devoted to maintenance and dealing with technical debt, that kind of thing. And some milestones about features that we are quite excited about. We need package repositories. It's kind of surprising to have a Debian package building thing that can't do repositories yet, but we're getting there. So the first part is just the basic repository implementation, being able to do package lists and something that apps can consume. And the next milestone after that will be advanced features for package repositories. So something self-service package repositories that you can create. You might call those PPAs. We might come up with another name for them. And some UI around package repositories and a way to copy packages between repositories. So, yeah, this is full-time work for 3-4 people who's paying for it. Frixion was funded the project since the beginning. This year, most of the work has been funded by the Sovereign Tech Fund, which is part of the German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action. That made a huge boost to development this year. Next year, we expect to get far less funding from STF, but we have pitched to them and hopefully we will get funding. And so we will consider some other funding sources as well. Well, I should say, Frixion is committed to continuing work on Debusine, and if we don't get external funding, we'll still keep working on it. We need it for ourselves, and we would like to see it make some inroads into Debian. We think it can solve some problems we have. So how can you get involved? The development's all open on Salsa. It's a GPL v3 licensed project without a CLA. It's Django, modern Django, using lots of type annotations. We've got excellent test coverage, including auto-package tests that build packages in Debusine and verify that the whole thing works-ish. This all runs in Salsa CI, so it takes about an hour to CI vet your branches when you submit a merge proposal. We have a list of bite-sized tasks that we haven't been able to get to yet and we think are easy. And backlog tasks that didn't really fit in the funded roadmap. We think we'd like to do them, but we haven't got around to them yet. We welcome contributions for all of these things. And that's all I've got. Does anyone have questions?
Thank you. Thank you.
My upload is now gone to unstable.
Just to rely a question from IRC, Nilda is worried about the signing operation. Will it be possible to show the data that is actually being signed?
Yes. We'll need to do that work, but it's completely possible, yeah. So that's in Debusine provide signature,
I would assume so.
I guess. Yeah.
I had the same reaction when I used it and ignored it. I know the code.
I think the IRC comment is maybe related to the longish discussion about tag to upload, which is doing basically the same, signing on behalf of somebody else.
Right. We're aware that there is a fair bit of overlap between what we're doing and some of the aims of tag to upload. We're not trying to compete here. I think we may very well end up either reusing some of the same basic tools or calling out to tag to upload or doing something similar. For now, we wanted to have something that was good enough to allow people working on ELTS to use Debusine as a front end to push their uploads through to the back end system. We totally expect this will evolve.
I guess one thing that might make sense is to do the signature from the artifacts that have been built on the developer machine instead of signing an artifact that is built by Debusine and that you need to compare to what you've built locally. Maybe that's something that could be looked into.
Yes, at the moment, the thing that you're signing is changes that's been built from the DSC by Debusine. I'd actually intended for this to allow you to upload a source.changes and then you'd sign that. We ran into some technical difficulties with that just before the demo and so couldn't quite get that to work. But in principle, yes, that should work as well.
But you could imagine in future, at the moment, Debusine has to consume a DSC to run the Debian pipeline. At some point, we'll make it look at Git like tag to upload does, and then you will be, needing to sign a thing that is not the thing you directly used. And we will have to solve. That is the same road as tag to upload goes. You have to solve some of the similar problems.
There's also some flexibility in how the signature happens. So for uploading to Debian, it's important right now that it be an actual developer signature. For other use cases, so think, conceivably ELTS, but also SaaS use cases for certain customers, you might be perfectly fine with it being a signature from Debusine saying that it has authorized the signature from the developer and then passing that on. So we do also have the facility to allow Debusine to do the signature itself. Enrico?
And now that we start looking at having workers building stuff in the cloud, that comes with having different tiers of workers. So stuff that needs to be uploaded as Debian security upload will not be built on other machines, but only on official Debian machines, for example.
Any question? I think we still have 5 minutes, something like that.
Thank you for the presentation. What would be except for the package upload, what would be the position of the Debusine towards what is running, for instance, on Salsa CI? Because I have the feeling that it's somehow redundant.
There is definitely a lot of overlap between what we have right now and Salsa CI. We're very aware of that. As we go on, I think you'll start seeing more differences. So, for instance, once we have reverse dependency auto package tests, once it's doing the same sort of thing that would happen on an upload to Debian, where you get the testing machinery, running auto-package tests of all of the things that depend on you, then that's the sort of thing that makes more sense when you're talking about I'm preparing an upload to the distribution rather than I'm running CI on every commit. There are definitely different sorts of things that make sense there. We are using Salsa CI ourselves. We think it's a great thing, but there are sort of slightly different aims for different kinds of CI, and also in general, the more CI, the better.
On top of that, what we have now, we're rebuilding the primitives that you have in Debian to do things like build a package and run lintian. But Debusine also thinks about repositories, not just packages. So you can have a workflow, which is like this orchestration thing that will work at a distribution level, and to experiment, try to rebuild this with this other option, or try a transition. Well, it's for next year, but you can have your personal repository where you prepare a transition, run all your QAs, and then when everything is ready, maybe just merge it into the main thing. So then you start working with chunks of distribution rather than package themselves, and that becomes quite clear that the scope is completely, it's different.
And to add something more, while this workflow that we showcase today is more oriented towards individual developers, as you've seen, many of the use cases are more oriented towards Debian teams. We mentioned the security teams, but it's possible to imagine using Debusine for mentors.debian.net to help with reviews of package, or with test and reviews of new package, because we have a diff task that can show the difference between the current version in Debian and the proposed version by the mentor. We have planned features to be able to add comments to the workflow, so that as a reviewer you can leave comments for others, and that kind of stuff. You can imagine as well that when FTP master are doing new queue review, they have their own stuff to review. The release team have their own stuff to review, updates to testing, or when the release is frozen. So the idea is that we're building some good tools that can be reused by all the teams to do this similar kind of work, but they can always tweak the way they combine all the basic blocks in their own workflows, basically. So feel free to experiment with what you have, but if you have ideas of new building blocks, new tasks to inject into Debusine to build even better workflows, you're welcome to try or to suggest it. We have only limited resources to implement all our ideas already, but it's fully in scope in the future to be able to have a Debian CD task or a simple CD task that takes one of the repositories there and builds an image, and then you can have something automated from the package upload up to the ISO generation. But not next year, see if it's only us.
I'm going to relay a question on IRC. Question to Colin. You worked on Launchpad before. What's in Debusine is similar to Launchpad, and what is different?
It certainly feels very familiar in certain ways, but I think the style is very different. So Launchpad is much more opinionated in various ways, whereas the goal of Debusine, I think, is to be flexible enough to meet a wide range of needs across Debian. So I think we're taking a sort of different design philosophy.
Thank you. I think we're done because it's time, but thank you very much for this presentation. I guess we can see each other tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, in this room, talking about DebConf 25. See you soon.